To the new listeners and to the regular listeners, welcome to Specificity. Spell it S.P.E.C.I.F.I.C.I.T.Y, where we ask specific questions about specific topics, getting specific answers. The meaning of specificity is the state of being clearly defined or identified to be precise, exact, or distinguished. Joining me today is Omari Ajanaku, the owner of the S.P.E.C.I.F.I.C.I.T.Y Association, the People's Criminal Law, and Past First Entertainment LLC. Omari, tell me one good thing, one positive thing going on. My family's healthy. They're safe. We're together. As I'm driving and taking different messages and different representations physically, I see where we could be. I see where I could be. You drive past and see someone walking, you can tell they're struggling. I look at them and I see myself with one or two less decisions or one or two more decisions. And so that keeps me grounded. Is that I have a lot more work to do. I just gotta enjoy what I do have and not overlook it or take it for granted. One negative thing going on, bills, and I'm dying. I'm dying slowly, and that could be positive or negative depending on how you look at it. The negative thing is we don't have a lot of time. It's time to be more intentional with our time, to be more consistent when it comes to our time management, and be more intentional when it comes to our interactions, and being okay hurting feelings, even if it's ours. Just standing where we need to stand and doing what we need to do and getting better at that. What are some of your upcoming projects? Oh, man. Well, as we stated, I own three main businesses right now. The first one is the People's Criminal Law. And the intention with that is to make sure the community is well informed on the processes, procedures, laws, rights, and any information in the judicial system. The main services I offer are criminal justice navigation to help people get out of the system. It's designed to keep you in, so just help them navigate that. Crime scene examination, where I would take a look at the evidence, the facts that they provide me, and given my experience, tell them what I see, what's lacking, what procedures weren't followed correctly, and they will give that to the public defender or their attorney. Because I am not an attorney, put that disclaimer in there. I'm a paralegal. Legal information is another thing, to find previous cases. They call those precedents. Judge law, to find different opinions and to provide that to you, to provide to your team. So really, I'm a behind the scenes guy. I don't charge anything for my services. The main thing is just providing a need where I see we're lacking. I feel like we talk too much as a community and we don't know what we're talking about. We get emotional instead of thinking from intellect, and we react more so than prevent. And so I just felt a need. My degrees tie into it perfectly. I have 2 bachelor degrees from UCO, forensic science and criminal justice. So the vision is law school. It takes time. The nonprofit, the S.P.E.C.I.F.I.C.I.T.Y Association we spoke of, vocational school. The intent with that one is to cater to 3 main areas within our community: career development, planning and execution of the life's work and purpose, vocational training, educating people on things they need for work: email, Google Drive, Microsoft Word, communication skills, things that coincide or are similar to that. And mental and emotional counseling, unlicensed, put that disclaimer in there. I'm not a licensed practitioner. And that's the assistance and guidance of one's personal, emotional, mental, and spiritual difficulties. Really, it's just a conversation. I wouldn't say just because it minimizes it. It's a conversation where we would address some trauma. We will have honesty and integrity. We will have trust that what we speak of stays between us. So I insist you don't tell me anything incriminating, because if I get subpoenaed or summoned by law, I have to reveal the things we spoke of. And we just have an honest conversation. It's not too deep. It's not too serious. It's not you come into this office and you sit down in front of me with a pad and I say, "Tell me, how does that make you feel?" With the monotonous clock ticking in the back. Nah, it's just honest conversation. And a third one is past first entertainment. With that one, it's films, books, and music. That's the core. That's the foundation. And the intention is to lead, uplift, and strengthen my community. People like to see images when it comes to pictures and films and videos. And so my intent is to, one, show the honest truth of where we are, and also uplift us. That's the biggest thing for me, is to lead and uplift, to show possibilities and how we're able to do more and what it takes to do more behind the scenes. With a board game coming out called Trap House, and I named it like that for a reason, to cater to the group of people I want to be playing. That one's reading comprehension, career development, critical thinking. It's pretty much walking them through the facets of life, except it's going to be honest and it's going to get really dark. When I say dark, I mean the possibilities. You know, you're going to feel, if you go to jail within the game, you're going to feel the fees. You're going to feel the court costs. You're going to feel the inconveniences. You're going to feel the being deprived of finances yet still having bills. And so that's my biggest thing, is to walk people through what could happen. So in the event that it does happen to you or somebody you know, we've already had processed these thoughts, and our conflict resolution skills get built all the while. Um, Tell us where people can find you or contact you. For the law office, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn at People's Crim Law. People's Crim Law. For the Peace First Association, the nonprofit, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn at Peace First Assoc. So that's Peace, one STASSOC. For the entertainment company, you can find me at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube at Pass First ENT, PASS1STENT. So if you want to contact me, see what we're doing, some constructive criticism, I would definitely appreciate that. What are some of my upcoming projects? I'm glad you asked it. With this being the conclude of season one, I felt that I needed to communicate what's going on and to be transparent, versus being opaque. If you and to communicate, I'm gonna step away for a while, maybe a month or two, possibly three, because I'm working on this film called A Letter to My Children. And the gist of it is to address, the main components of our community. It's centered around six major actors, and I took excerpts from our culture, our community, and wanted to put them in front of the camera and to see how they interact with different things. For example, we're gonna go to Black Star, the shop, the store on 36 and Kelly, and it's extremely cultural when it comes to the colors, the red, green, black, yellow. When it comes to more of our heritage, when it traces back to our ancestry. And so I'm going to show how each actor interacts with that. Some are going to be intrigued and want to learn more. Some are going to scoff at it, taking it for granted and make fun of it, jeer at it. Um, and that's the intent, is to show. I'm not going to reveal the actors. You just have to be patient with me. But the main six is going to represent three positive, three negative, quote unquote. Um, and they're going to interact with the idea of marriage, with our ancestry and our heritage, relationships, communication, career development, and success. And we're going to take a deeper look on an intellectual level, um, on a mental health level, as to why and how they operate behind the scenes. Yeah, we see how people are flashy and portray a certain life. Now, how does that look behind the scenes when no one's looking? If I live this promiscuous life, um, how does that take a toll on me behind the scenes when I'm not on Instagram or Snapchat or Facebook or when I'm not being seen by people, what type of toll does that take on an individual from a physical, emotional, that, how do they prepare themselves to go out and be presented into society? What type of things go into that? And that's what we're going to show with that film. I'm putting a soundtrack to it. So I'm making some music, and I'm going to put within the film. And this is my intent. We'll see if it comes into fruition as I look back. We're going to start filming in September, every Sunday from 12 to 3. The last Sunday, I'm thinking about putting on a community event where I barbecue. We play some of the music we're going to have in the film. And we come out and just interact with the community. Might even have a little basketball game. This would be at the Northeast Community Center, um, in the 36 and Kelly area too, where we have the casting calls. Information on the casting calls, you can look us up on Facebook. That's where I operate from mostly. Facebook at Pass First ENT. Um, and it's just the one people want to eat. So feed the community and then also interact with them and be a better way to introduce myself, introduce the intent. Might even have a little basketball games back there, some spoken words, music, maybe some live painting. I'm not gonna dive too deep and get too fancy. I'm gonna stick to the fundamentals. The main thing is to feed the community, listen to music, and interact as little or as much as possible, and spread that word of mouth and build that reputation within the community. Within the criminal law office, right now it's just getting more experience, reading more, um, getting it in the community, introducing myself, because I stand on my name and my integrity, because my kids are gonna have to carry on this energy. Whatever name I make for myself, my kids are gonna, uh, it's gonna be their name as well, and that's how I live my life right now. The Peace First Association, the similar thing. I don't charge anything for the services of the law office and the nonprofit. Those are all pro bono volunteer works, just addressing the need. My intent is just to address the need and on a community and generational standpoint to empower us all to do what we love to do and to make that plan and execute it. Um, how I'm going to pay for these things, that's the key, because law school is going to cost, and so is the school. That's why I make the entertainment company. That's where I have the merchandise, the posters, the apparel. I have the vinyl. I have the VCR. I'm making of the film. I like VCRs. It speaks to my generation. So I'm gonna make the VCR of the film. That's my intent. When they're gonna be released, the latest December, just to make sure I do it right. A lot earlier though. My intent is to be a lot earlier. I just don't want to jump the gun and rush it. I'm learning to be patient, patient as possible. My intent is also to go on Heart and Soul and to exhibit some of the music. Um, maybe do like a Five Fingers of Death, like they did on Sway. Just to share some of this energy, some of the accountability that I live and I've indoctrinated within myself, and to introduce myself, introduce my character, introduce my reputation, introduce the way I live my life, my levels of accountability, my levels of consistency to the community, and build that name. How my family's doing? My family, they're doing all right right now. They're not feeling too well. They have a little bit of a stomach bug. I think I cooked some food wrong. Right now, they're not holding their food down too well on both ends, if I'm being honest. And so just tending to them, making sure that I give them the support they need. And honestly, I'm not even sure what that looks like. So I just get down to their level and they come to me, they climb on me, they let me hold them, and we have conversations like we're having now. And I tell them they're amazing and they're stupendous and exemplary. And I explain the meaning of those words and that they have significance, that they're worth it. And just reinforcing those teaching them how to think, because whether we realize it or not, our voice and how we talk to them becomes their inner voice, their voice of reason. When they're going through conflict and discomfort, they look back on the words that we gave them and use that to guide them. And so I'm very careful on the things I say to them. What's something I've learned about fatherhood, something recently? To be present. Be present. To know where you stand, and you're gonna have to hurt people's feelings. That's just what it is. Where people are very sensitive and aren't really in tune with themselves internally. Very emotionally unstable, where the smallest thing sets them off. And I'm learning that a lot of that is internal within that person. I don't have that much power over them. If I told them to, stop a habit that's hurting them or to eat better, they wouldn't listen. They would give it no second thought. But yet I tell them that we're not doing this because this is my decision. They're so distraught. So there's a disconnect somewhere. And that's something they have to figure out internally between the higher power that they look to in terms of for guidance. So just to be consistent, be diligent, be rigid, and you got to keep the same energy on both sides, which is why I appreciate you for asking one positive thing and negative thing to keep that balance. We got to stay balanced. Not too much positive, not too much negative. We got to stay balanced. That's my key. I understand that you are taking some time away to focus on other projects. The topics I'm going to address. The topics I'm going to address is to hold our community accountable. One thing that bothers me is, if I'm speaking honestly, is the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't, I don't necessarily care for it because when we're killed by police, they're on the news. We see the work, we see the protests, we see it. But then when we kill each other, it's silent. I need that same level of accountability. I needed that same level of accountability that we're protesting in the streets, going up to these government um, institutions. Yeah, what about the corners where we see the type of behavior that's going on, but we turn our cheek to it? So if you're going to march up to the governor's mansion or the mayor's office or block the interstate highway, take that same energy and go to our corners and run them off the corner. I need that same level of accountability that we give, the police and government officials. I need that same level of accountability on ourselves, on the guy down the street that we know what he's doing. There's a certain energy to it, but yet we feel intimidated or scared or hesitant or reluctant to address him with the same level of accountability. And I don't like that. So my goal is to address us. I'm not going to address anybody outside of our community because we have the power uh, first. Then once we get ourselves right, then we move externally. But to always start internally, and then the external manifests itself. We'll carry ourselves different. We'll communicate different. When we do get pulled over by police, we think before we speak and we communicate holistically and know what we're talking about instead of belittling and being belligerent. And that's not the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is to be confident, to be well spoken, to have a plan, to execute, to think before we speak. Don't react emotionally. Don't get in your feelings. And if you do, you hold that in until you have a safe and appropriate place to express those feelings and to cope with them in whatever way you do, positive or negative, is to have some restraint. That's my biggest thing, to have some self control and restraint. How we dressing, how we presenting ourselves. It's a reason that females dress the way they dress, and it's a reason males dress the way we dress. So we have to address that. What are some things you've learned while producing this podcast? Consistency, to be prepared, to have a plan and communicate that plan, and to stick to the plan, to be flexible within that plan as well, yet still come back to the plan. Um, to I didn't realize the quality of sound. Like even the room I'm in now has a slight echo, and that's gonna feed back in when we're listening back to this. So to maybe even get in a booth, like I would when I record music, get in that same booth and record the podcast, or get in a booth and record the podcast themselves. The hardest thing I found was when I dealt with guests, if they're gonna call in on a Google Meet, that could have positives and negatives on it. It could cut out, it could lag, One thing I did never want to do was to edit out anything. I wanted everything to be honest, to show the ugliest side of the podcast and the best side. If it's choppy audio, I'm keeping it because I want the one takes. I love one takes because you get what you get. There's no editing and everything is what it's supposed to be. I love one takes. So to stick to that format and as I get more finances and more access to opportunities and technology and get more experience to level myself up as I go. Okay, now I have this building I can use. Okay, now I have this booth I can use. Now I'm getting a better mic. Now I'm getting a slightly better computer. Now the guests that I'm interviewing are from a different standpoint and a lot more diverse when it comes to their thinking, experience, and educational levels. So really just learning and getting better, even if it's plus five, plus 0.5, plus one, just to take that and uh, spin it and ponder it, write it down, and improve it. How this change or adjustment my future podcast? Same thing I elaborated on. Get a consistent space that's quiet where the levels are decent. Get a consistent, methodical approach from, for instance, me typing up the questions I'm gonna ask, sending it to the guests on a Wednesday when we do our recording on a Saturday or Sunday, reaching back out to them Friday to see if they need something added, adjusted. I look at the questions myself, add something or omit something. I'll get better at plugging in social media links or links to work that they're working on. Um, it's little methodical things like that. In closing, what do you want the listeners or and potential supporters to know about the mission, me and my mission? That's a heavy one. What do I want them to know about me? Is that I'm a man of the community. I know the money's gonna come because the how I live my life is my content, and my content is how I live my life. There's no disconnect. So when I do get in front of that camera, when I do get in front of this the radio and project my voice and put that radio interview on YouTube, and as I do get my music heard by more and more people, it's going to be so consistent. The content across the board, from the board game to the books to the children's book to the poster to the long sleeve to the vinyl to the film to the films plural, it's all consistent and it's all geared toward a certain intention and toward a certain energy. That's the upliftment of the next generation of my community. That's my legacy. That's what I'm leaving behind. Is even if I sell nothing, I'm going to be incredibly proud and happy that I made this content because my kids will look at it, take from it, and do something better. And I leave behind them something to reference, like even the podcast. My intent with the podcast was to leave something for my kids to listen to. And it sort of grew and manifested itself into something bigger. Uh, what I do is I leave behind for a child who was a little like me, who really didn't have the guidance that was appropriate. Yeah, we see the movie stars, we see the musicians. Yeah, that's great. We see the athletes. That's fantastic. Those aren't role models. Those aren't leaders, in my opinion. Those are entertainers, and we need to make sure we keep that honest and keep that. Where are our examples, our teachers, our community leaders who aren't signed to an institution that works to our detriment? If it's signed to a record label, that record label has a certain intent, and that's to continue the process and to continue the system which keeps us where we are. Athletes, the same thing. It's a reason why athletes get paid that much money. It's the reason why most don't speak on certain issues or do anything about it. There's no way that I have that much power and influence and don't force change. And I think that that's the difference in our time is we get to a certain level, we don't want to lose or jeopardize anything. You got to remember those who came before us were dying for the change. They were getting felonies for the change. They were being locked and imprisoned, beaten, and their character assassinated. Their families threatened, bomb threats cost to their homes at all time of night. That's what they were going through for change. Now what we do for change is a social media post or a decent interview. That's that's a rice cake. That's a rice cake to me. Yeah, it don't taste that bad. It don't taste that good. It's not bad for you. It's not good for you. It's still substance. It's just not really doing anything. And so that's my intent that I'm leaving behind is that I'm actually doing something about my lifestyle. I'm not going in front of a podium and spitting. I'm not pimping in front of a podium and then behind the scenes living the way I live. Every facet of my life is through the content, and the content is every facet of my life. It's all consistent. You can ask anybody about me. My name is my name, and I stand on it with how I speak to people, how I treat people, how I treat myself, the standards, the way I walk, the way I talk, the way I dress. And you guys will see the energy, and you'll understand when you see it. I'm standing a certain way. I'm not letting up on it. And I already know how I'm going to die. I've already had premonitions. Between me and you, if I may be honest, my masculine energy arose from a lack of a man being around. And so I forced myself into this role. So it came abruptly, violently. It came with trauma. And so that's the way I'm standing. I'm not moving. If you want me to move, beat me unconscious and move me. And then I'm coming back. And if you don't want me to come back, you're going to have to kill me because I'm standing a certain way. Because I've seen the lack, and I've seen how society treats our women and children when there is no man around, and I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I'm not standing for it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not listening to it. And so I got to be careful the people that I'm around because the energy that I'm carrying, I worry myself sometimes because I know what I'm willing to do. And so I just got to be mindful, aware, and responsible where I place that energy because I know what I'm coming with. Um, and it's just being honest with myself. So that's what I want people to take away from me is that there are no weak links. There are no holes. There are no weaknesses. My weaknesses are my strengths are my weaknesses, and that's why I'm balanced. And I'm gonna leave us with this quote from Omari Ajanaku. Every step I take toward my death is another step I take toward my success. And so I step. And with that, we thank you for joining us on Specificity.